Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis.
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
Hey Camp Pros, with the concerns about the coronavirus and COVID-19, we're going off schedule and digging this show out of the CampHacker archives. This is CampHacker episode 56, recorded back in 2013. This episode is all about combating communicable diseases at summer camp. Shortly, we'll be releasing a new episode that specifically focuses on what camp pros should be thinking about when it comes to camp, coronavirus, and COVID-19. Make sure that you subscribe to the CampHacker podcast wherever you get your podcasts so that you'll see the episode when it comes out. It will likely be next Thursday, March the 12th. Thanks, Camp Pros. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. I'm Travis Allison. I run a blog about running a great summer camp at camphacker.tv.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle, and I'm one of the camp directors at Camp Waro. Camp Waro is an all-girls camp situated in northern Quebec, and I'm speaking to you from Montreal.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marty Ferguson. I'm the director at Camp Chief Ouray, which is part of YMCA The Rockies, and we are located in Granby, Colorado.
Hello, everyone. My name is John MacDonald. I'm a retired public health inspector, manager of health protection for many, many, many years, too many years that I want to recall, but nice to meet you.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We're going to be talking about communicable diseases today, which is why I brought in my stepdad, John. And Marty has quite a story to tell about that as well. I think that Dan and Joe will be joining us. Dan has confirmed that he'll be calling in a little bit. And we'll get his perspective on some things. But before we get too far into the topic, I want to just get a bit more information about Marty and John, who are joining us for the first time. So, Marty, you're at Camp Chief Ouray. Is that where you grew up at camp?
I actually started at YMCA Camp Nissikone in Michigan, which is part of the Detroit YMCA Association. And I didn't actually go to camp as a kid. I'm a rarity in that I'm a camp director who never went to camp as a kid. But I started as a 20-year-old counselor at Camp Nissikone, worked there for 2 summers, and then worked at a day camp in North Carolina, which is where I'm originally from. Yeah. And then a good friend of mine and I, we searched for a place in the country we wanted to live and a camp that was located there, and the rest is history. I've been at Camp Chief Ouray since 1995.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, Marty, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you. We're going to hear a bit more about your own experiences with this topic.
Thank you.
But I want to also give John a chance to say hello. So, John, you said you're a health inspector for a long time.
Long time, yes.
In 2 different counties?
Actually, it was three different counties. I started way back when... in 1972 with the county health department, and I worked my way up to manager of health protection after many years. Retired after 30 years, had some health problems, and I loved the job so much I went back to 2 other county health departments, one in London, Ontario, one just down the road in Hullman, Norfolk County. I spent, 10 years at those 2 health units doing staff work, and right back to talking to the people and helping the people out, but it was very enjoyable. And after that, I had enough and let the young people take over, and I am fully retired.
Yes. So John's been a great asset to me in my camp career because we've had, obviously, questions about our kitchen, etc. I could always call John, but one particular incident, we had a cook who quit at breakfast time one day, and we had to bring in took us a day to find the next cook, which was a camp alumni, counselor alumni, who was a teacher and graciously said, sure, I'll come and cook for a month for you. And so we asked John to come up and give Dale some hints and tips on how to do it safely. And so that's why I've asked John to be here. Also, I've said this to this crew before, but I haven't said it on the recording, that I've talked to John before about how I think that the community of camp is such a great spot for, I think, for study and education for people who do public health, because it's such a little small community of things. What you call it, a closed cohort?
It's a closed cohort that you can monitor very easily for the most part.
Yeah. So we've got lots of stuff to talk about today. I bring this up because I know that I've been through a number of communicable diseases at camp before. We had a kid show up on opening day with his parents, who the nurse heard him cough and said, "You have whooping cough. Take your pertussis home." And other things. And I know that it's an issue that can have such a strong impact on camps. And a lot of camps, I think, are completely unprepared. I think that they are just going along blindly until a disease, something communicable, hits them, whether it's foodborne or otherwise, and go from there. Then they're just forced to deal with it. So I want to give people some ways to deal with that ahead of time. So, Gab, have you ever had stuff go through at Warrow?
Yes. I mean, yes, we have. And some of those things happened and really put in place a lot of our prevention protocols that we have now. And I think it was probably the second year that we owned the camp that we had stomach flu. And it just hit so rapidly. I remember that it started about 11 in the evening, and then by the morning time, there's at least 20 people that were in the health center and in some of the buildings that we used that had washrooms for our staff and our campers. And now our families have to fill out a health form, and they have to present the health form as they drive into camp. If there's anybody that had a cold, had the stomach flu within the last, I think it's 48 hours, and we have a spot for cars that haven't filled out that form. It's very, very. It's almost like going through, like, have you visited a farm in your visits? But or was anybody in your family that was sick? And then if somebody was sick, usually we do turn them away, and then we have a different protocol for our international clients.
Right.
Because obviously some of them fly from far and they could get sick over that time. But that has made a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
That's something that Travis and I were talking about just before we went on air, that is very, very prudent. And you really don't know whether, in that situation, whether somebody was bringing something into camp or received that problem at camp. So I think that's being very, very prudent. That's good protocol.
Yeah.
Thanks. It was one of our camp doctors that came up with it, and we were lucky to have her as a staff member before, and she sent her kids to our camp. But that was her and our director basically that came up with that, and it really has made a difference. But to be honest, the first 2 years that we did it, families weren't pleased or happy about this protocol, and now they're just used to it. But we've had kids drive in and their eyes are all puffy and red and their noses are running, and you can they're gray faced, and we're just like, this is not, they have to go back home. So and that's made a big difference. Or the brother was sick and the parents are like, no, she's fine. They're honest on their form, which was nice. And then it so happens that within that afternoon, she's sick at home, and they call and they say, you know what, she is sick, and we're going to keep her for a couple of days. So it has really worked out for us. Yeah. But I'm excited to hear about what to do when, if there's cracks in the, it's, people get sick, and they do. Staff have days off. They go off camp. We're not completely isolated. Yes. So I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, John, about some of the preventions and how to take care of these people.
Yeah. So, Marty, the reason that I ask you to come on is because I know that Camp Chief area has developed some protocols based on some experiences, and I want to ask you about that. We're mostly talking about communicable diseases. But, and John pointed out to me that there are a number of ways that these things can travel through the camp, and there could be a number of entrance points, water supply being one. And John, you said that the kitchen's the most common place for...
Oh, by all means. Actually, I would look at it in three different terms. I would say environmental. And environmental, I mean, if as the children are out in the woods and somebody, 2 or 3 of them are starting to eat berries, they shouldn't be,
Right.
you know. The second is the water. And the third is the food, which is primary as far as we're concerned, because that's what the cohort is going to be partaking of every single day.
Yeah. So of all those different sources, no, Marty, I want to know what sort of took you down this path of awareness and developing stuff for your camp.
I was first promoted to camp director in the fall of 2003, and my second summer as camp director in 2005, we had an outbreak of norovirus, also known as the cruise ship virus, and we worked closely with our local health department to try to determine the source. And after a lengthy investigation, they never actually discovered during that outbreak who patient 0 was. But with norovirus, what was explained to me by health department officials is that with norovirus, there's vomiting, diarrhea. And so if I'm in the vicinity of someone who vomits and I can smell their vomit, I am literally ingesting norovirus and I'm immediately exposed. And so it was, for us, our check-in days are on Sundays. And on Tuesday evening, we had several people who began exhibiting symptoms. And by Wednesday morning, about half of camp was exhibiting symptoms. And I didn't really know anything about norovirus at that point in time. And we tried to soldier through the week, and we sent several campers home. We kept a lot of campers here. We basically had triage at our camp health center, and it was by Wednesday afternoon we were talking to the local health department officials, and they came out to camp. Our local medical clinic about 10 miles down the road sent out a couple of nurses to just kind of help with the triage, so we made it through that week. The kids checked out and went home. We were very transparent with all of our parents and sent out communications about what was going on at camp. And we tried to open that next week. And again, by Tuesday, within 2 days of the check-in, most of camp was sick again. And that's when we made the decision to, in conjunction with the health department, to close camp until we could get well. We sent all the kids home, treated the staff for signs and symptoms, and basically waited until everybody was well and reopened that next week. In addition, during this entire time period, we were bleaching everything in sight.
Yeah.
With the recommended bleach water mix that the health department recommended for us, and then we were able to make it through the remainder of that summer. It was a really humbling experience because you certainly don't want campers and parents and the general public thinking that, your camp is not a clean camp, or there's something that's going wrong in the camp kitchen, or there's something wrong with the water or anything like that. So pretty humbling experience. And like I said, with that investigation, the health department never actually discovered who patient 0 was. Yeah. In 2008, we had another outbreak. A poor camper who checked in on Sunday was not feeling well, and our nurses determined, it's probably car sickness. She's probably okay to be here. And at dinner on Sunday night, she vomited in the dining hall. So instantly, everyone who was in the dining hall was exposed. Yeah. And that was our second outbreak. And because we had been through it one time before, we contacted the health department again and worked with them again, but we knew all the procedures and protocols they had recommended previously and followed those to a T. We went ahead and didn't try to make it through that week. We went ahead and sent campers home and shut down camp, and were able to open the next week and finish out the summer healthy. But from those two experiences, we learned so much about daily cleaning, daily hygiene, that maybe we weren't practicing as thoroughly before. And one way I put it with the staff is you have to be militant about hand washing for yourself and your campers. And through these experiences, we set up some new hand washing procedures and hand washing stations as the kids are coming into the dining hall and that sort of thing. So, yeah, there was just a long laundry list of things we learned from those unpleasant experiences.
Yeah, we've through the health departments in many years have seen many Norwalk problems primarily at nursing homes and retirement homes and the closed cohort in those facilities. And the thing that we always asked first was, and it's part of Norwalk, is the fact that it's an explosive diarrhea. We always ask them, was a diarrhea explosive? And that's a cue for us. And we sort of quarantine the people in the building, if you will, and obviously the public couldn't get in. But I think it's prudent to get the health departments involved right away, and I think that's part of due diligence of the camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would add on to that I've talked to other camp directors who might see the health department as almost the enemy. It's scary when the health department is coming to camp. And, as a young camp director in 2005, I was definitely scared. But what I learned was that the health department, they're not the enemy at all. They are, they have the best interests of our campers at heart as well. And they just want everyone to be healthy. And, now I know everybody at the local health department, and I don't hesitate to call them up or even invite them out to camp if I have any questions. And they are a fantastic resource for us.
Yeah.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
They are not the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. Gab, do you guys have a good relationship with the local health department?
I wouldn't say we do. I think that we're struggling with our municipalities right now, and it's a very small. We're a very small municipality, and our health department is really, really, I think, run thin, basically, right. Where they have a lot of land to cover and very little time. So I was just listening to Marty, and I was thinking, wow, that would be really lovely to develop such a relationship. But I think they're spread a little thin, actually.
I'm going to give you some insight on the health inspectors looking at some of the districts they covered. The districts that they covered, for the most part, and I won't speak for the health departments I've been involved in, the inspectors take their districts as their own, and it's personal to them that things don't happen in their district, because someone would always look at it and say, what are you doing? What are you doing wrong out there? So most inspectors that I know have taken it personal that this is my nursing home, or this is my camp. I want it to run properly, because I don't want things to fall apart in those particular instances.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So I've had a Norwalk experience as well, and we had probably a third of the camp go down with it one summer, and that changed a lot of our protocols. And I do want to talk about protocols and how we deal with these things. But what are some of the other things that we could be that would fall into this category, John, of communicable disease?
The protocol, and we heard earlier about talking to the parents before the kids got to. I use kids. Yeah. Quotations. Kids got to the camp. I think that's a wonderful protocol, because you don't know whether the kid brought that into camp, a staph infection or strep, whatever it is, or you didn't prepare the food properly, or you haven't been testing the water, or the kid's been eating the berries and getting sick from that. Right. I think if a bunch of kids were eating berries, as an example, there wouldn't be a lot of them. But I would say after 3 people, we're talking outbreak. After 3 people, look at, we've got an outbreak here. I think you should use that criteria. Yeah. The other thing I would stress is education. The people that are looking at your food and your water, make sure they are responsible and are recording their results. So whether it's if you have a swimming pool, or you're looking at time and temperatures of preparing the food, storing the food, have some type of protocol where every day they're monitoring and writing down, and they know they're responsible because they sign their name. Make it their responsibility. I think if you put more responsibility on those folks, they'll look after it a little bit better. That's what we've learned. I've always used to, I'm sure you've heard this term before, HACCP, hazard analysis critical control point. If the staff haven't bought into that or haven't learned about that, I would emphasize they should get into that. Learn what can go wrong and how it does go wrong. Whether as an example, the pH of a particular food is conducive to growing bacteria, and if they take a HACCP course, they'll learn all that sort of stuff. And I really can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. Are there other diseases or symptoms that would raise a red flag of this is an outbreak or this is something that's traveling through the population? Other than explosive diarrhea? And obviously
I would say intestinal. The one that I see most of the time is intestinal type disease, whether it's obviously kids are throwing up and these are easy signs. If they're eating, as I always bring up, eating berries, if their face is turning red or can't breathe properly, obviously you can look that way. But usually that doesn't happen for the most part with food and or water. So I would say intestinal type things where they're throwing up and diarrhea. Those are easy.
Right. Yeah, that's great. So that starts us down, I think, the protocol discussion. And I know that there are lots of great things we can do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes developing an awareness in your staff, and I don't know if you found this too, Marty, but really developing that awareness in your staff is important, and sometimes getting them to understand some basic concepts of public health. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until, I guess, so we had one major outbreak and then one minor outbreak. Sounds a bit like your experience, Marty, where we knew it was coming. We could tell we'd had 3 or 4 people sick, and we could tell that we had to do something drastic the second time. And it took me and the nurse and I going to taking out the staff and explaining what how transmission worked for Norwalk and what was meant by, like, what washing your hands does. And for us, that took me saying, you need to understand what the fecal oral transmission route means. Is that by not washing your hands, you're transferring fecal matter from yourself to another person, or another person's transferring it to you, and that's a big way of transmission. And it was at that point I could see light bulbs going off in their head. They're like, okay, I'm going to get really serious about cleaning.
Yeah, I think it's been proven time after time after time in many empirical cases that if the more the people wash their hands, the less the disease will spread, as it was brought up just moments ago. Yeah. I think that is key. As a matter of fact, they're even seeing that in hospitals. Some of the people that aren't washing their hands in hospitals, and quite often it's doctors and nurses, and they're with the patients every day. And so the washing hands is the key to it. Right. You can pick up on the other methodologies of spreading it, but that's the one that people. They use your hands on fomites, doorknobs, towels, this and that, and as Marty said earlier, and washing them down on a regular basis.
Right. Well, we're fortunate enough to, Travis, you talk about, telling those stories, to communicating that to the staff as far as the education piece. We have enough staff who are still working at camp who were campers during the most recent outbreak, or even a couple of staff who were working then. And during staff training, I let them talk a little bit about the miserable experience it is to go through that kind of outbreak at camp. And so there's enough people who still remember the how miserable it was to, and I think it really drives the point home. 20 years from now, we probably won't be telling the exact same stories because there won't be, anyone around who specifically remembers it. But yeah, I think that's the way we, during staff training, we kind of communicate that now, is have people tell some of those stories.
Yeah. I think that most people working in, whether it's a camp, a restaurant, a facility, I think it will never happen there.
Right.
Two incidents I would like to bring up that very, very important happened in our area. One was many years ago, we had an inspector out looking at a handicap hospital. They were handicapped. And the inspector did the HACCP inspection, and it turned out okay this particular day. And the next day, 3 people died. 3 people died. And it was from Spanish cream. So we taught them, and they didn't do it the next day. The other point, and it was brought up earlier, the fact, talk to your people. Don't lie to the inspector. Don't lie to the health unit. It'll come back. It'll be blowback to you. Let me tell you. We had an episode here called Walkerton, and it involved water, and it ended up that the person looking after the water system for a municipality lied to the inspector. After the inspector was trying to ascertain whether it was the water, he lied and said that, yeah, he put sodium hypochlorite in the water, chlorine in the water. He lied, so the inspector started looking at the food. 2,000 people got sick, 7 people died. His children are still being treated for it. Right. So openness, honesty is key with the health unit.
Yeah. Marty, what are some camp-specific protocols that you developed once they have an understanding of it? What did you change? I know you mentioned quickly hand washing, but what are some of the physical protocols that you said you used to develop?
Yeah, John had talked about the research that goes into, people are just healthier when they wash their hands more. One of the things that we talked through with our health department is not only a hand washing piece, but what's everything in camp that those hands are touching.
Yes.
And so twice a week, every single week, we do a thorough cleaning of our dining hall. We'll pop all the tables, we'll move those out of the way, we'll bleach the floor down, and then we'll actually bleach all the tables down as well twice a week. And, because that's a place that everyone at camp gathers 3 times a day. Yeah. So that was a big one for us. And as soon as we started doing that, not just with outbreaks, but also just, the common cold at camp, we were just a healthier camp in general once we started doing that. I think a really simple thing that we started talking to staff with, and this comes with that education piece, is, let's suppose a cabin group is camping out and someone brings a bag of chips for snack, and that becomes the community bag of chips. Yes. Well, instantly, you're sharing all those germs that are on the kids and the counselors' hands by sharing that community bag of chips. So we stopped doing that, and whether it's a gloved hand reaching into the bag and providing individual portions, or doing the smaller individual bags of chips. But it was little things like that honestly we had not thought of before that have made a really big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you had, you said you added hand washing on the way into the dining hall, did you have to physically make something, add in a hand washing station?
We did. It was kind of ironic. During our outbreak in 2005, the hand washing procedure we had at that time was something that the health department had told us to do many years earlier. And we hadn't really checked in with them to see if that was still a good procedure. And it was, we had a solution in a bucket that everyone was dipping their hands in as they went into the dining hall. And part of their investigation found that even though they had told us to do that several years earlier, research had shown that by doing that, we were probably spreading the norovirus more than we were doing any good.
Right.
And so it was right after that 2005 outbreak that we built 2 hand washing troughs just outside the dining hall. So the procedure is now we call the cabin groups over 1 or 2 groups at a time. Each, the counselors are there to supervise the kids actually washing their hands at the trough. They grab a paper towel, they head up the ramp into the dining hall. And so it's literally the last thing they do prior to going into the dining hall.
Right.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because when campers are lined up to go in for a meal, in our case, it would be usually the program director that would let them in once the mealtime and everything was ready in the dining hall. And sometimes it would be me, and I would try to get my program directors to check with each counselor, has your cabin washed your hands? And 90% of the time the answer is no. I'm like, okay, go wash your hands then before we... And John, I don't know if this is effective or not, but like once we got them more into the habit of washing their hands on their way in, or before they sort of got there. So it was hand washing, stand in a line, go in, which I realize is another opportunity for contamination just standing around there. But there was antibacterial squirt stuff once they got inside of the tables. Is that
a great idea? The more equipment, quote unquote, those little sprayers or whatever methodology you're using, I would encourage that. The other thing I would add to it, if every once in a while, I would do the same thing with the equipment, footballs, frisbees, that type of thing as well, because it's outside. It can be contaminated very, very easily, the ground and what have you. So I would do it to the equipment as well.
And just sort of spray it with a bleach and water mix?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no downside to that.
Right.
Well, and one protocol that is
touched by hand, Marty, and not just the dining hall things you touch by hand, but the others.
Well, and one protocol that we adopted that I forgot to mention has also been very helpful for us is anytime there's a report of a camper or staff member having diarrhea or vomiting, wherever that is around camp, it has become a common practice to immediately go bleach that area, whether it was in a restroom or in a cabin or wherever that was. And, at camp, sometimes, campers or staff have, like chugging contests, with, the water pitcher, and that might cause them to vomit. So it doesn't matter if it's because of illness or because of that chugging contest. We make sure that we bleach down that area immediately.
Right.
Yeah. Kids are gonna have fun doing a variety of activities amongst themselves. So you can't protect everything, but you can do your best.
Right. Gab, what sort of things do you do at Waro what are the protocols for you folks?
I think, like Marty said, is disinfect. If we know of somebody that is ill, disinfecting their sleeping area, all of the bathrooms that we have. Our leadership team actually, part of their job training is we show them like, here's a pair of gloves. This is how you make the mix. This is how you wipe down the bathrooms. Like we actually go through that, and we have somebody that does clean our washrooms daily, and she's really, really good. But we don't want her to be going around. We do it pretty much almost every 2 hours. We're going and disinfecting the washrooms, the doorknobs, the everything. And I think anybody that's gone through half their camp, or just even like over 20 people being sick, you don't want that to happen again. And so it's the priority is making sure that we're stopping that contagion from going further. And then of course, the health center it's very, very essential that whoever goes into the health center, is it really because they're sick? Are they home lonely? Are they, because once they go in, that is a place where it's a quarantine basically. And we don't want people coming and going because they have, the difference between a first aid situation and being sick. So even changing where they get their first aid done. So that those kids that are, or staff members that if they sprain their ankle, they're not going to the place where there are people that are actually could be contagious. So those things we also shift. I had a question though, however, and maybe you answered it. I was dropped out of Skype for a little bit, but did you talk about Purell at all?
We did.
Okay.
I had said that we have kids wash their hands on the way into the dining hall, and then when they get to the tables, they get a squirt of that stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, one question I would like do the camps explain to the children the rationale for doing this, and is there a session for the campers as they come in to say, okay, we're trying to keep you healthy? Is a half hour spent with them to advise them, if you're sick, see this person, don't spread it? I mean, is there some type of education focus on that?
Yeah.
I mean, for us, there is. I mean, it's a way of also our campers meeting our healthcare professional. but it's also about just even showing them how to cough properly or sneeze into their basically their elbow, not into their hands. Like these type of things our healthcare professional says, and they meet them individually as well. But we do a talk on the importance on washing their hands, and I think that's part of it. But again, it's sometimes it's an experience that causes you to sort of say, like, these are things that are very important, so that we don't have that experience again. And they're so used to it now that I mean, it goes hand in hand with also lice, basically. Yeah. You know, we talk about those things and sharing hairbrushes and hats, and all of our kids, our hair it's always tied up. All of them know it's tied up. They brush their hair in the morning, then it gets tied up and braids or whatever. So that those things, I think, it's an important part of. It's also them learning how to take care of themselves. It's not a bad thing.
One point I would like to stress is the fact that regardless of what we do, it's going to happen.
Right.
It is going to happen. And I would just make sure that you have all the I's dotted, T's crossed on your protocols, because if the health department comes in, they're going to look at what you've done in the past, and if you're running a haphazard camp, they're going to look at you a little more carefully, and they won't be your friends after a while, because they'll come down on you left, right, and center and cost you money. So I would make sure your protocols are set up and be honest with the health inspectors and ask for help.
Right. And well documented.
Well documented.
Yeah.
That's due diligence.
Yeah.
I've always told all the restaurants that I've ever inspected, that's the number one thing I've always told them. You start right beside your walk-in coolers or your fridges. You put all the fridges down, you put all the freezers down, and somebody is responsible for putting those temperatures down every single day. And if there is a problem, you mark it in red, and that means get it fixed now. And so if an inspector comes in, if there's a problem, you say, we were doing this. And the inspector will say, okay, we're not going to look at this particular area. So that's due diligence.
Yeah. Good. I think that we're getting close to the end of this discussion, certainly to the length of time we've allotted for it. I bet there's a lot more we could talk about, and a lot more ideas that we could share. I want to say that have an eye, if you're listening to this, just the audio version in your phone, then go to camphacker.tv/podcast and look up the show notes for this. What I'm going to try to do is find what we call the kitchen compliance record that I created when we were at camp. That was the thing that John's talking about. It was the fridges and their temperatures, the freezers and their temperatures, the time, and the time is checked in the person's initials. We also included that the counters have been wiped down with the bleach solution, and the doors in the kitchen and all that. So I'll put that out there for free if people want. By the time the show notes are ready, when this gets launched on your phone that you're listening to this, that I should have found that, or at least know if I can find that compliance record or get it from somebody else. So that'll be available. Marty, I wonder if you have any final thoughts on this topic before we move on.
Yeah, I think I guess I just want to reemphasize a couple of things that John said as far as reaching out to your local health department, creating if you don't know your local health department officials, call them up. And it's not uncommon for me to call them in the middle of the summer and say, hey, we had this come up, I have a question, or if any new protocols come out regarding this particular thing. But one thing I tell our staff in the summertime, if your job is easy, you're doing it wrong. And I think that is can really I think that's also applicable to health at camp. Is it's hard to do all of these things thoroughly every single day to make sure that your campers are healthy. And so, I would just say that lay out your protocols and procedures, specifically assign people to do those things, as John was talking about with the temperatures on your refrigerators, and then just have follow through and make sure they're getting taken care of every day.
Right. Yeah, some supervisor to just check on that regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for your insight on that, Marty. We're not going to go yet. I have a few more things we're going to do in the show, but thanks in this particular discussion. John, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, we haven't talked about other things like that can spread disease.
Yeah.
Pools,
Right.
the same as the food. I don't know what happens in your particular areas, but recording pH and chlorine residuals where there's iodine or anything else that's disinfecting your pools. If you have pools, or I asked Travis about spas, but not many camps have spas or jacuzzis. I've always known that jacuzzis are. I don't go into jacuzzis because it spreads Pseudomonas aeruginosa and it's a respiratory problem and it's very, very bad. I'm sure you don't have them. But pools always was a worry to me as much as the food aspect of it, and it's very easily spread. The same as the protocol for recording the time and temperature, what have you, or the temperatures of the walk-in coolers and fridges, what have you. Make sure the same due diligence for the pools, because disease can spread just as fast, even faster.
From the pool. Yeah. Good. Thank you. Gab, do you have any final thoughts?
It's just nice to have John on the show, and with his knowledge and experience, I took a whole bunch of notes. Just sort of, I like due diligence. I think is sort of key, and I think it comes back to training our staff. We talk about that often, but how do we train our staff? How do we not only just talk about it, but illustrate it to them, the importance of making sure that their kids are washing their hands, that their hair is being, tied back properly, that their nails are being clipped properly. All those things, how do you illustrate it? And we can probably talk and brainstorm about some ideas on how some organizations do that. And also for Marty, with being transparent about your experience, we always learn from that. And I definitely did. So I'm just happy to meet you guys. Yeah.
Right on. Well, that's great. So thank you very much to all of you for a good discussion on communicable diseases at camp. That means that this takes us to our Tool of the Week.
Tool of the Week.
So for those of you who are listening for the first time, we encourage you again to go to camphacker.tv/podcast and find the show notes, because you will see the links to all of these different things that we're going to talk about in our tool. Every panelist we've asked to come here and present a tool that does make them a better camp director, or in John's case, a tool that would help us be better camp directors and look after our community better. And they're not going to be focused on our particular topic, just something that is a great resource. And Gab, I'd like to start with your tool. What's it?
My tool is just a Twitter app for your desktop. So I'm really trying to tweet more. And I have such a hard time because it's like out of sight, out of mind, unless I check it on my phone. And we did a podcast a while back that all the bells and the whistles distract you from what you're concentrating on. So I turned that off of my cell phone because it was binging so much. And anyways, so one of my staff members said, you can just put it on your desktop, and there's a little birdie that appears at the top. And when it's blue, that means you have a message. And when it's black, that means you've checked all your messages. And it's really easy to retweet things and all this. Anyways, I've had it for a couple of days now, and I love it. And I don't check it regularly. I don't check it all the time, every time the bird turns blue. But I do it at lunchtime and then at the end of the day, and just see what people are up to. And then it allows me to tweet more often. So for people that already tweet and they're already, great at it, I don't think it's necessarily useful. But for those that are really trying to be more proactive, and I know that there's some directors that are trying to, and Twitter's a little bit bizarre to them, this is a great way to just see how other people are doing it, follow other people, and just having it on your desktop. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. So
Good.
That's my tool of the week.
That's great. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Okay, good. Marty, what's your tool?
My tool is a book titled Season of Life. The author is Jeffrey Marks, and I read this book about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was very inspiring to me. And what that tool has done for me at camp is it has helped create some great discussion points and created some common language with specifically our male counselors. The book is great for football fans because it's about a high school football coach who, based on some of his own experiences and what he thinks the messages are from society about what it takes to, quote, be a man, he's just not happy about that. And so he creates a different message for his football players. And breaking it down very simply, the coach states that what he thinks society tells young boys that it takes to be a man are things like sexual conquest, making lots and lots of money, or being an outstanding athlete. And if you're not one of those three things, then you're less of a man. And he changes that message. And what he tells his players is that being a man is more about having positive interpersonal relationships with everyone you come in contact with, and being a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that's an easy message to talk about at camp, that being a part of something bigger than yourself. For him, it was his football team. And, when his players graduated from high school, hopefully they latched on to something else that was important and positive. And at camp, we can talk a lot about that, the interpersonal relationships and being a part of something bigger than yourself. And it's really created a lot more, like I said, common language and discussion points with our male staff about how are we going to be positive role models for the young boys who come through camp.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So people can find those links on the website. John, what's your tool?
My tool is with some background. I knew a lady that was starting a restaurant. By happenstance, happened to be my sister. And I said, Sandy, you should take a HACCP course, a HACCP protocol course from the local health department. And she did, and it was a week-length course. And she came back. Next time we talked, she says, John, I don't know how anybody can open a restaurant without taking this course. I learned so much. Everybody that's handling food in the kitchen or has some involvement should take a hazard analysis critical control point food education protocol course. I think it's there's no downside and there's terribly great upside to it. Yeah. So I encourage that.
That's great. So in Ontario, those are available through the local health departments?
Local health units, yes.
Right.
Or through community colleges as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they are certainly available North America-wide. It seems they're likely worldwide.
Absolutely. HACCP started, as I understand, way back with the Pillsbury company back when. And NASA took over during the Challenger period, as I understand. They were involved in that. And so it's been around a long time, and I think if you look at the critical control points, that can go wrong. You'll be better off.
That's great. Thank you for one that fits the discussion so well. Thank you. Mine doesn't fit the discussion so well, but I still think it's an important tool. We've talked about this in the show before. Focus is one of my big challenges in life. And I have been using a website that I find quite fun called focusatwill.com, which puts on music that it has no lyrics, so it doesn't really catch your attention. It's good background music. It'll go on for a certain amount of time. You can set the time. Its default's an hour. And will ring a bell at the end of that. So it does two things. It encourages me, or just sort of helps me focus during that time, and keep on task, because I'm not distracted by the music I'm listening to, or that it gives a bit of a mental theme to what's going on. But I like that it rings a bell at the end of the time and makes me take a break. Like that makes me, I find that the best thing for me getting stuff done, working long hours, is remember to take breaks, and that makes a bigger difference than actually doubling down on my concentration. So that Focus at Will is a great tool for that for me. I encourage you to check it out. It's free. You sign up, but and that brings us to the end of the show. So I want to thank the three of you for joining me on the CampHacker podcast. If people have any questions or want to contact me, what do you do that?
Well, they can check out where I work at waro.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Gabrielle Rail. And if you have any questions, it's gabz, G-A-B-Z, at waro.com.
Gabrielle Rail has 2 L's in it.
It does, not like the railroad. Yeah, it's... Yeah.
2 L's. Excellent. So, Marty, if people want to follow what you're doing or check out your camp or get in touch with you, what would be the best way for that?
Yeah, we're on the internet at campchiefouray.org, and Ouray is O-U-R-A-Y. You can also follow us on Facebook, and if anyone has any specific questions, you can reach me at mferguson@ymcarockies.org.
That's great. Ouray has almost as strong a vowel to consonant ratio as Waro does. And John, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been great
fun.
So the best way if you have any questions for John is to get in touch through me.
Yes.
Yeah. So email me and I'll ask them and I'll pass on the answers. But we would encourage you to check out your local health unit and talk to them and establish a good relationship with them. And get this. But if you have any questions, email John through me, travis@socialcatalyst.ca. And I encourage you again to go to camphacker.tv/podcast and find the show notes. If you like watching the video of these shows, you can find camphacker.tv on YouTube. And we hope that you go there and subscribe to that. It's really helpful for us. You can also find CampHacker.tv on iTunes, the BlackBerry Podcast Store, etc. We hope that you'll encourage your friends, your camp friends, and share the show. Encourage everyone to download the shows and subscribe there. And that's it. Thank you very much for a great show, everybody. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The Camp Hacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening. Camp Hacker, bringing your world into focus.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable. You'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.